On episode 309 of the podcast, we talk about the importance of bringing the human element into the most important touch points in your business. We also talk about CRMs, the customer journey, and we share some very practical tips on how to serve your current and future clients to help you build a more consistent and predictable revenue cycle in your business. Sound good? All right, let's do this. What's up, friend? I'm Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business Podcast. I guess we could do like real effects. Yes, I am so happy that you're here. This is a show for corporate and commercial filmmakers that really want to focus on the business side of production, the things that make our businesses sustainable. If you're new in the industry, if you haven't been doing this for work for more than a couple of years, you have a lot to learn. I've been doing this for 18 years. I've learned so much, and the people I bring onto this show are super smart, most of the time smarter than I, but I was smart enough to say like, hey, let me bring them in so that I can learn, and let me be able to help other people learn as well. So if you're in a place, regardless, 2 years or less, or you're a seasoned veteran as myself in this industry, this is a place where we just talk about sales and marketing and operations and the things that aren't super sexy, because I want to talk about like gear and the latest and greatest software and like the coolest shots and the best reels and like all that stuff is really fun. But I found out about halfway through me owning this business, almost 10 years in, I realized the importance of, if I don't get my stuff together, if I don't figure out the numbers in my business, if I don't figure out some processes and things that we can just put on repeat, or things that I don't have to do so that I can focus on the things that I'm mostly needed for in this business. If I don't do that, I'm gonna go crazy, because it's not enjoyable. This work loses its luster when you have to do all of the business things and you don't know what you're doing. You don't know where to start. So my hope is that this show can be a guide, a resource for you, and help you learn a lot faster. That's one of my favorite compliments that I've received since starting the show 6 years ago. People will say stuff like, man, I wish this show was around when I first started. So for those of you who are just starting, you're welcome in a weird way. I'm not trying to sound weird, but I'm weird anyway. So I'm really glad that you're here. Let's keep moving. I am so happy that you're here. This episode, we're going to talk about customer service. It is so important to consider, but really, really important to have some kind of a plan, because most of our work tends to come from referrals and repeat work with current clients. So if we don't have this like customer service thing like figured out, we don't have a process or a plan, it's an uphill battle, and I don't want that for you. Okay. Before we jump into that episode, I've got one final call for the mastermind. If you're generating over $100,000 in your business, you're not in year 1 or 2, you've been around the block for a little bit, and you've got at least one employee, part-time or full-time, or a contractor that you work with consistently, but you are in need of a small group of hungry video business professionals that you can share challenges with, you can get business insight from, you can be encouraged, but also a place where you can give insights, where you can encourage, and you can challenge and spend time building a relationship with people that are really wanting to take their business more seriously in a very different way than they ever have before. If that sounds like you, I want you to consider applying for the Studio Sherpas Mastermind. You can get all the information, plus see some testimonial videos of people who have been in my mastermind in the past. If you go to studiosherpas.com/mastermind, this is the last call for the application process. No, this is the last call for applications as we prepare to finalize our mastermind for the first half of 2023. The group is going to start in January. You can find all the details about pricing and our meeting rhythm and the retreat that we're going to have, when that's going to be. All of that stuff you can find at studiosherpas.com/mastermind. You can look at that page, and then there's a button on that page, or a bunch of buttons, where you can just apply and get your application in. This is Final reminder. So if you've been on the fence, it's time to make a decision. Not everyone that applies is going to make the cut. So just because you take some time to think about if this is something you want to do and you apply, it might not be the right time. It might not be the right group or the right fit. But here's the thing. One of my favorite sayings is, if you want something that you've never had, you have to do something that you've never done. So let me just encourage you, if you thought like, I wouldn't fit in that group, or Ryan's been in business for so long, that's not what it's about. If you can be generous with your time to help others, and also be open-handed to be able to receive from others, and you've got a couple of years of experience in your business, over $100,000 a year in revenue, plus an employer or a contractor that you work with on a regular basis, those are the prereqs. And if you don't have all the things figured out, that means that you might be a perfect fit for this group. So go check it out, studiosherpas.com/mastermind. And now let's jump into this interview with Katrina Scarlett. What's up, friends? Welcome to this episode of the show. This is only take 4 of the introduction, but Katrina, I think I've got it. I'm very excited about my guest today. She's been a longtime friend, Katrina Scarlett, who is the founder of Scarlett & Co., a customer experience company. Katrina, welcome to the show.
You nailed it. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And that's probably the most fun I've had in like an entire month, just laughing.
That's incredible. It was sort of like whenever we hired you for this most recent project, I was like, oh my gosh, why haven't I thought to ask Katrina to help to be a guest on the show? Because you've brought so much clarity and help to my business, actually businesses, that I just feel like I've been selfish with like not sharing the Katrina love. So I'm glad we're finally doing this.
Me too. And I it's funny you say it too, because I have several connections with like clients that I work with who have podcasts, and I never think to like put myself forward and be like, hey, do you want me to be on your podcast? And because I sort of, how you said, maybe it feels like a little like a selfish move. I don't know. But when you asked me, I was like, heck yes. How come we haven't done this sooner?
Yeah. But we're here. So why don't you give us a glimpse at the kind of work that you're doing?
So as I like to say, I'm on a mission to help people bring the human element back into online business more specifically, and start making people aware that even if you have a online business, you're still working with other humans on the other side of that transaction, whether it's an email, whether it's a purchase, an opt-in, whatever. And just making people understand that there's still an element of customer service that needs to happen in digital business. So we work with our clients in Scarlett & Co. in consulting roles predominantly, where we'll come in and help them map out their customer journey. We'll help them train their team, because a lot of times, especially in online business, they have people maybe helping with the front side of the business, the customer facing side of the business, but they might not be the best person for that role, right? A lot of times it's like a tech virtual assistant who gets placed in the position of responding to customer emails. But at the end of the day, they don't like people, so they're not doing a great job at it, right? Or they're intimidated, so they give away the farm when they don't need to. So we'll help train. We will help people work through like difficult situations, like the customer conversation around maybe whether it's like stemming towards legal, right? If it's refund related, if it's just mapping out the journey of a program, or if it's an entire like customer journey in a company. So consultation all around the different elements. And then we're also, we have a certification program for people who want to step into customer-centric roles. So maybe it's somebody who's been a VA for a while, or an online business manager, and now they want to step into a bit of a higher, not necessarily a higher role, but a more niche down role that's customer-centric focused, whether they want to be customer support manager, client success manager, or something like that. So kind of two facets. Like you have multiple facets. It's kind of, we do the business consulting side, and then we also do the one-on-one training side.
Yeah, love it. let's paint a picture here. So you come into my video production business. You come to the studio today. Like let's actually say we're in person, and you start asking me questions about how we run a business, how we interact with our clients. What does the customer journey look like, and just all of the things that you would take a client through. What is the worst case scenario? Like what might you find, or what might you unpack in in my business that you're like, oh my gosh, like you have no idea that this is happening, this is impacting this, and what are some of those things that I might have no idea?
I think, and I don't necessarily know if I want to say it's like the worst thing, but maybe. I think it's the mindset. So it's not like a specific tangible thing in terms of like, oh, you're still sending emails by Gmail and you're showing everybody's email address, which is a big no-no. So please don't do that. So it's not necessarily like the tech side that I'll, necessarily identify first. That usually comes after. Like once we have the bigger picture of what the overarching purpose and mission of the company is, what their desired I'm going to say I like to call it their desired legacy, what they want to be known for, right? Whether it's still them running that company 20 years from now, or they've sold it to somebody else, or they've retired, right? What do they want that desired legacy to be for their business? So once we've kind of done all of that conversation and work, if you will, then we'll get into like the tech nitty gritty of like, oh, that's not the right way we should be doing that, or there's a better way to do it. So for when you ask that question from like the bigger perspective, I'm going to say it's mindset, because a lot of people stop the conversation about like the customer experience or the customer journey at the point of a purchase, right?
Yeah.
It's like what I like to say to people is, whatever fancy infographic you've seen on Pinterest or wherever of a funnel, and it's just dollar signs coming into literally a funnel, and then it just ends. Right? It's one page, dollar signs come in, they buy, and it ends. And I'm like, there's a whole nother chapter to that infographic that people just don't think about, they don't discuss. And they go into not just online business, but they go into business in general with money as their number one motivator, rather than being of service, being their motivator first.
I feel like when you started talking about the funnel, I mean, it's just like brilliant that, it's the sales funnel, but the customer journey or the customer service, funnel, like that doesn't get any love. I mean, I haven't seen that.
Right.
What does that look like? Do you have, I'm sure you have some sort of like here's what that should look like. What might that look like?
So in my head, I have this beautiful infographic, which we just not have like designed at this moment, but it's in my head. But you're right. Like the customer experience it's cyclical.
You got it.
Right. Thank you. I wanted to say circular, but that wasn't really the right word. Could have worked, but you have to think about your customer journey and the customer experience that you're offering in your business as an infinite loop, really. It doesn't just end. Yeah, it starts, but it starts the minute somebody learns about you, not the minute they start working with you. The minute you first got introduced to the McDonald's arches was the first time you started your experience with McDonald's, right? So the first time somebody says, hey, have you heard of Studio Sherpas? That's their introduction to their customer experience with you, right? And they may not pursue further, so the journey sort of ends there. But if they start to pursue, like that journey continues. And so for me, if I was, I can't draw for the life of me, so it would be horrible. But if I was going to draw it on the screen today, it would be a circle, and it would be, this little entry point that comes in, and that can just be from brand awareness. It's not that they opted in necessarily. It's not that they purchased. Right? But you're leading them on a journey, just as if you went to the zoo and you went on a guided tour, right? They're going to take you along all these different stopping points. You have conversation along the way. You talk about points of interest. You might buy something at the gift store. You might buy something at lunch, right? And then you just keep going, or a museum, whichever, right? And so as a business owner, we need to be thinking about the journey we want our customers to go on. And we want to be thinking about it as it never ends. So that, okay, what's the next thing? And then what? Right? And asking ourselves, okay, so I've just created this great ebook and it's going to be my first opt-in or it's going to be my next opt-in. And then what? Right? What's the conversation we're having with people after that point? And even after that, like, people need to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Right? They want direction. And if we don't give them guidance, they get distracted. They move on to something else. Right? I can't remember the total story. Seth Godin shares this story, but about a man who was giving a lecture and told everybody in the pouring rain to come outside and follow him. And they did, because they just want direction. It's pouring rain. Nobody grabbed coats, right? But they just want to be guided. So it's our job as the business owner to give them that what's next and invite them to continue doing business with us. And they might make a purchase. Leave us face it, we can't be in business if there's not revenue, right? For most people, at least. So we do want the purchase to happen, but there's so much opportunity after a purchase happens where we can be nurturing and engaging with our customers, our clients, however you refer to them as, so that when the next thing is right for them, they're ready to say yes. And maybe the next thing isn't right for them, but it's right for 10 of their friends. And they're the ones shouting from the rooftop, hey, do you know my buddy Ryan? Go buy his new XYZ. Right? So yeah, so that would be like, that's not really, stick diagram, but hopefully that paints the picture.
Yeah, I think that's good. Also, A to Z, for those of you non-Canadian speaking friends of ours.
I am as Canadian as they come.
Represent, girl.
I should drop that I'm even curling tonight. So, there's that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting, like even as you're explaining that there should always, it's cyclical. There should always be a next step or something else. But even like on a very practical level, I'm thinking, well, once somebody becomes a customer, they buy from us, we shoot, we edit, we deliver their video. Now they've got it. Now they're posting it, they're sharing it, they're winning, whatever. Well, what is immediately where my mind goes is like, okay, well, fortunately, some of those clients of ours are on our general email list. So if we have a new promotion, if we have a new service, if we're selling a digital product or something like that, I can email my list and tell all those people hey, here's what's next. Here's what we're doing next. Yeah. Hey, we're hosting this event. Hey, come to this thing, do this thing, buy this thing, download this free thing. If they're not on my email list, they're not getting that information.
Right.
So as you're even talking about this cyclical nature of things, what might else? How else does that look? Is it like just having a good CRM system that has all of our past clients, to where we're once a quarter reaching out to them and seeing if they need anything, and which that sounds a little laborious if you've been in business for 18 years and you have a lot of clients. But what might some of those things look like?
I would say you nailed it right away, is that kind of quarterly reach out. I'm big on the personal touch. I really do I'll still handwrite cards, right? I'll, send a little thank you to somebody who recommended somebody to me or something like that. And I think that goes a long way, especially now in the digital age, right? Yep. We can be in digital business, but it doesn't mean we have to do everything digitally. Right. So, but that being said, I will often leverage my CRM to remind me of, either an important date about my clients, right? If I knew their anniversary or if I knew their birth date, right? Anniversaries are tough because you want to be in the know with them, because you don't want to reach out and wish somebody happy anniversary if you haven't talked to them in 5 years and things have changed. So there's some mindfulness that has to go into it. Or maybe it's, creeping on Facebook or whatever. But the personal reach out around key dates, or just a general hey, we're heading into the winter months or whatever might make sense for the business, right? And, you're on my mind. I just saw XYZ from you. I say that all the time. And I just wanted to drop you a note and say like, hey, you came to mind. I hope you're doing well. Is there anything I can do to support you right now? Mm-hmm. You do that brilliantly. You've done that to me twice. You've reached out and just asked if there's anything that you can do to support me. You probably don't even remember it now.
Well,
it's been a couple of years.
I'm wondering if that was like our general email list or if it was actually like a personal
I'm pretty sure it was, I'm pretty, because it was your whole signature and everything.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Then it's probably legit.
Yeah. I think you've done it to me twice now. But that kind of like putting yourself front of mind with them, right? Not only like it's a twofold benefit in the sense that you're benefiting the person by letting them know you're there to support them. Mm-hmm. You're making them feel good just because you're telling them that you've been thinking of them.
Yeah.
And who cares if it's because you got a reminder on your computer? Like if people just want to know that people are thinking of them and that they haven't been forgotten, right? Like that goes a long way. Mm-hmm. So just reaching out and having like whatever the system is for you, like some people will just do like Google Calendar. I have a friend who, if they talk to you today, in 3 months' time, like at the end of that call, they'll go into Google Calendar and put a reminder to circle back. They don't leverage a fancy CRM. They, for the most part, do it in a very basic manner, but it works for them. You could have tasks in your CRM or, email notifications set to come back to you, something like that. But the personal, especially the people who have done business with you, even if it's in, maybe I don't want to call it low ticket offers, but especially the ones that are in more of a one-to-one work, like where you were talking about your past customers, those ones who have invested with you both in, bandwidth and financial, those are the ones that I would be putting on your Christmas card list, if you will, and trying to circle back with, more than just once a year. I think that's where some people, they think like a Christmas card once a year does the trick. You need to be doing it a little bit more if you want to stay front of mind, right? And even if they don't respond, that's okay. Like I had somebody do that to me, which I love, obviously. And I was just a wallflower. They somehow realized I got into their orbit. They sent me a personal email. They asked for my mailing address. I sent it to them. I got a lovely card. They did that for like 2 years. Now they're on my team.
Wow.
Right? So finally the opportunity came up and they were top of mind because they put themselves in that position.
Yeah.
Right?
That's really interesting. And you sort of were alluding to something else in that. One of the biggest, most asked about things inside of the video world, you start a video company and you're super inexpensive, so everybody hires you, and then you realize like, oh, I need to charge more, and then you just get overwhelmed, and then you at some point you start figuring out the things. As you're charging more money, fewer of the people that were hiring you before can afford you anymore, and so that's it is what it is. But still, like one of the biggest struggles in this business is finding new clients. We're just like so many times in my business journey have I felt like I'm a hamster on a wheel. I'm just like, like spinning. I feel like I'm doing all these activities, but I'm just not getting anywhere. And, trying to find new clients, especially ideal clients, it's really, really difficult doing on my own. Mm-hmm. You are kind of talking about, well, maybe they're, instead of like that being our go-to, like we just wrapped a project with a client, or we just wrapped another year of doing a bunch of video for a bunch of different clients. Maybe the first thing that we do is talk to them. Is there anything as you think about, I always say like low-hanging fruit, and I think those people might be that.
Well, and it may not be them. It may be their next door neighbor, right? Like so much of every industry is who you know and who they know, right? So if you can stay top of mind with a past client, and all of a sudden that past client is, at a New Year's event, and somebody's like, oh man, like I really need to get, a video story put together about my company. We really need to like reposition ourselves. We're going through a rebrand. Like, boom. Ryan, I may not have worked with you for 2 years, but you've done a great job of staying top of mind. You better believe, especially if I had a great experience with you, you better believe that I'm going to be passing on your information to that person, right? And so one opportunity I think a lot of people miss is that when they finish an interaction with a customer, and I'll say that the interaction is like in your case, you've done a video shoot, you've wrapped everything up, you've delivered the final product. I would call that an interaction, like a project interaction, if you will. I'm not saying it's like the end of the customer experience because there's still much opportunity after that. So, but when that particular project or interaction ends, I won't even see most people. A lot of people just move on to the next thing. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Guilty.
Katrina's project, we're all guilty of it. Guilty of it. And so you move on to the next thing because it's piled up. You've got deadlines, right? And a lot of times, especially at different times of year, become tunnel focus, right? End of the year, got to get all these projects wrapped, right? Whatever it might be. And so most people, I won't say most because generalizing, but a fair amount of people will just move on to the next thing. And it's like, there's not even a thank you message that happens. Big mistake. Big mistake. People just want to be appreciated, even if that's just a thank you email a week later, right? So that would be like the number one thing I would say. If you don't do that, even if you move on to the next project, just send a thank you email. Like it takes all of 5 minutes, right? Then the next group of people will ask for a testimonial, right? Which is great. However, it is more self-centric, right? So it's still wise to do for business, especially if it was a great interaction. You want to make sure you have that, you can utilize it, etc. There's also a benefit in, if I say to somebody, yeah, you can use me as a testimonial, they put my company name on it, right? So ideally somebody looks at my company, like it does help a little bit in exposure. But people typically ask for a testimonial more from a self-centric perspective. When to reframe that, not only can they ask for a testimonial, but ask if they can think of 2 people that they know in their network that you can support next. Right? So that might not come back to you as a referral. They might not say like, oh, call my friend Ryan, right? But can you think of 2 people that I could help support in your network next, right? And then that just gets their juices flowing, being like, oh, Ryan's open to referrals. Oh, I need to start thinking about this. I do know people, right? So you're opening up that continued conversation potentially, if they know somebody off the top of their mind, and or you're at least letting them know that you would like to support their network even further if you can.
Yeah.
Right. So like asking for a testimonial is great, but asking how you can be of further support to anyone they know is putting yourself forward as being service centric, which can in turn come back to you, obviously, as referral business.
Yeah. I love that. You say people, they want to be told what to do. A couple of stories here. I remember in 2006, we filmed, this was early on in my wedding career. We filmed this wedding. This woman, the bride's name was Andrea. We shot, edited, delivered 2006. 6 years later, at some point I had started an email list for our brides, which I don't know. I don't know why I started doing that, but I was able to like get people to upgrade to different things when I would send out an email like Black Friday upgrade, get a trailer for an extra $300. So I made money on it, which is cool. But in 2012, we launched our corporate brand, Tell Studios, and I made an announcement to all my bride clients, like, hey, now we're doing like if you have a business or you work somewhere, we're open for business. Not that we wouldn't have done those videos before. But I was like just being very clear, like, okay, now we are doing this kind of work. And Andrea, whose wedding I filmed 6 years earlier, was like, oh my gosh, we just had a meeting this morning with my team. She worked for a PR agency. We said we needed a video for this project. She's like, would you guys be, I had no idea that you did other stuff. Like, this is really cool, but would you be open to this project? That relationship has turned into a 10-year partnership where we've done hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work with this client. They're incredible people. Andrea's not even there anymore. But to your point, staying top of mind, had I not sent that email out, but we were her favorite wedding vendor. She loved her wedding video. She just couldn't put two and two together to think that, oh, Ryan's open for business. And he's actually doing business videos. Okay, so case in point, exactly what you're saying. It's so important to guide people. We always assume like, oh, they know. And a lot of times they don't, right? Because we're all very selfish. We think about our own stuff. Nobody's waking up in the morning like wondering like, I wonder if I could give Ryan some work. Do I have any video work that I could give him or his team? They're great people. Nobody's thinking about me. Not even my wife. She's got her own stuff that she needs to do today. I'm thinking of her. I'm thinking of the needs of my family. And once I'm done doing that, then I think about my needs. Just kidding. Well, sort of. So I think that's really, really valuable, and which is why I'm sort of shifting my belief in the power of social media. Like I'm finally, I think, don't quote me on this, please. Don't replay this anywhere. But I'm sort of seeing the value of showing up online to stay top of mind. In the past, I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we posting this? Why are we, it's like, it's not going anywhere. But the point is, for somebody randomly scrolling to see like, oh yeah, I know Ryan, and they're doing video. Okay, and then they see something again. It's like we're trying to open the door to a conversation. Now, I think this is my last point here. When you have something that you can offer, so you're talking about, hey, is there anybody I can support? You did this awesome video for your client. They're super happy. I would say like within 3 to 7 days of delivering the final and getting them signing off and saying like, oh, it was awesome. It's great. We're done. Thank you. While they're still, before they put it on YouTube and only 7 people see it and they're like, what the heck? Before that, get them to give you some kind of a testimonial and let them know, hey, like, is there anybody I can support? In the past, I've always looked at that as like I don't want to come across as needy, but they also need to know that we're not too busy to be able to help serve them more or their friends, the people in their network. Now, today, we've got a couple of different options to be able to support people. I wrote a blog post, different ways that you can maximize exposure on your video. I send that to our clients after they've had the video for like a month. Hey, here's this little blog post. Where are you at? I've had conversations with business owners afterward. They're like, man, this is really helpful. This is gold. This is really good. So that's like a small way to serve somebody. If you have a downloadable, like a PDF or something where you could collect somebody's email address and get them on your email list and add value through some type of a teaching, like 3 videos that, every law firm should have, or 3 marketing videos that will help you grow your email list or get more sales or whatever that thing is, so that when you're saying to a past client, is there anybody in your network that I can help, serve, support in some way, maybe by sharing this thing, like having a thing. So otherwise, I know this is like a huge rant here. Otherwise, I've always felt like the only thing I could offer is hire us. The only thing I have to offer is for you to give me money. And that just seems very one-sided. But now we've got some downloadable resources. We've got some free resources. And I could also say, hey, we host lunch and learns. I'll come to you guys and I'll share these 3 things in person, the 3 things that every marketing team should know when doing video. I'll buy your team lunch. I'd be happy to do that. Or if you want us to talk about video strategy, like we can talk about that. Like that's a paid workshop. So there's one more thing that either this client could hire us for or they could introduce us. So those ideas hopefully aren't like super overwhelming. But I hope that there's a freedom in thinking like, oh, okay, I don't have to ask for a referral just to hire us, but I can actually support, I can actually add value to somebody else. But you got to like figure out like what is that? Is it a key piece of content, or is it an experience that you're offering people, like a lunch and learn or an in-person workshop or something like that? Figure out what that is, so that when you're saying like, hey, how can I support you? How can I help you? These are different ways that we might be able to. You tell me, like, what do you think? I think that's a good strategy.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's a pretty, I'm going to say, easy strategy. Honestly, probably the hardest part for most business owners is to think about what is that request? What is that ask, right? What are they sharing? Because even if I say to you, hey, Ryan, like, who do you know that I could be of value to? Is there anyone in your network that I could support right now? I am asking you to think about my business from a point of referral. So I am asking something of you, but I'm framing it in a way that is not self-centric, right? I want to be of support to somebody else. I want to act in service. So like I have one rule for myself every single day, and it's doing at least one thing in active service of somebody else that's not on my to-do list, right? If it's like a task for a client, I don't count that as like, that's a commitment I have. But what can I do as an act of service to somebody else today? Whether that is business or just in casual interaction, right? So perfect example, today it was garbage day. I came home from the dentist. I went to my two neighbors' driveways and I brought in their bins for them up to their houses, right? And just doing like something like that puts you into this position of like feeling good about doing something for somebody else, right? So I think a lot of business owners, they just get so focused on the need and desire to make money, right? To be profitable, to create revenue, that they forget that at the core of probably why they started their business was to be in service, right? Not necessarily just to make money. That is the means to be able to be of service, right? But if you approach your business and your day-to-day from being of a place of service, those types of requests and asks, they don't become sales. They truly do become a desire to want to serve other people and, help me, help you, help them, right? Like that kind of concept. And if you're out there as a business owner striving for the next dollar, the next dollar is always going to feel really, really hard to get. Yeah. But if you're coming at things from like, how can I be of service? Who can I support today? Money starts to become fairly easy to make, right? When you're doing it from the right position of heart and passion. So if you can reframe it for yourself and actually kind of get back to your passion, right? And be like, lead with the desire to serve other people in that capacity, money really does become fairly easy to make. Right? Because you're just striving for the next connection, the next introduction, the next conversation, rather than trying to chase a dollar. Right? And referral marketing, like that organic growth in your business, social, I do agree with you, is great for awareness, right? And staying top of mind. But if you're leveraging your existing network and your existing audience, they can be your customer generating system for you, right? You nurture them, they tell 10 people, right? Next thing you know, like you're totally referral based and you have a wait list. And you have people who are willing to put down deposits to work with you. So you've got the money coming in before you've even done the work.
Now you're getting us excited. That sounds amazing.
Right?
A wait list. Yeah, we'd be happy to start this project. We can start in 3 months. How does that sound? Oh, man. You got that big of a wait list. Put us on the wait list. We definitely want to work with you if you've got that much business. That's amazing.
Exactly.
We had kind of an awkward moment with a client this year, and I'd been I love this client. We've worked with them for a long time. We've done some really, really amazing stuff with them. And there was a bad experience. And there was nothing we could do. There was misunderstanding and communication wasn't like the best. And so at some point I'm just annoyed, frustrated. I'm just like, why I'm trying so hard to like win them back. And the person who's in charge of me winning them back now is not the person that I used to work with. And we're just not seeing eye to eye on things. And I was ready to just like throw in the towel and be like, and we also were finishing up a round of videos and there was no talk of any other videos in the future. And I'm like, oh, the client is totally done with us. And that was the sense after this conversation. I was like, yep, they're moving on. I'm like, man, that stinks. But then I just started brainstorming. I'm like, is there something I'm like, I know. Here's what I can do. I'm going to send an email and just say, hey, would you guys be open to me hosting a lunch and learn where I show your team some different ways that they can be using their iPhone to capture some good footage, like while they're working, while they're in these different, places and with different people, just capturing stuff that you guys can use. And, we'll bring lunch in, just 60 minutes, and I'll just kind of show some tips and tricks. And the response, it took a few days, and I was like, oh man, they're totally ignoring me. I'm like, I'm ghosted. Here I am putting myself out there to try to, and then I finally get an email. That sounds amazing. And it's from the person who I've kind of had a tough conversation with. Let me copy to this email, like somebody else really important in our company. You're going to work with them, but we would love to have you come out. I've got a few people in mind that I want to be there, blah, blah, blah. So that's happening. Really cool. I felt like, okay, now I think we're maybe in good standing. But then shortly thereafter, we get an email from another person on this team that says, hey, we want to, if we could piggyback off of this meeting afterward, can we talk about all of the videos that we want to do next year with you guys? And I was like, oh, baby. So the same idea, right? Like the go-giver mentality, right? Let me serve. Yeah. And really, I was just like, I'm just trying to, like, I want them to know that I care about them. And if I can be helpful, great. There was no cost. I'm paying money to buy lunch, and I'm showing up. I'm giving an hour of my time plus almost an hour of drive time. And really, it was just like, I don't know, like maybe this is the last thing that we ever do, but at least I'm leaving this relationship, like trying to put everything out there. And lo and behold, the go-giver strategy, it works. It works. So I love how you shared that. I think it's really important takeaway for people.
Yeah, and you say it like it's a go-getter. I actually see it as like coming from a place of care, right? Like you truly cared for that relationship. You didn't enjoy seeing it maybe peter out in somewhat of a negative connotation, right? And so you were going to at least do the best you could to leave things on a good note, even if that was the last you ever saw of them, right? And I would guarantee, even if they didn't hire you for more video work, that even just after doing that lunch and learn, putting yourself out there, investing in them, right? And acting in value, right? Giving value, that you still would have stayed top of mind as a referral for them for future business to other people, right? Because you left on a high note, right? And you brought value to the table. You invested yourself into them without asking for anything in return, right? And it's that whole concept of like value add, right? I upset some people when I say this, so I don't think I'll upset you, hopefully not your audience, but I don't believe in giving refunds unless,
just kidding.
I don't believe in giving refunds in most cases, because for a lot of people, it's a knee-jerk decision. It's I'm scared of conflict. I don't want to have a tough conversation. Just take your money and go away. We don't get better as human beings when we just avoid conflict, right? And if somebody, I don't know, like obviously I'll try and use video as an example, right? If somebody gets a video back from you and maybe there was like a shot that they were expecting that they didn't get, that's not... This has happened, I'm guessing.
Probably, yeah. Right? And she asked for her money back. Wow. One shot out of like 3,000.
Nailed it.
Anyway, continue.
That, right? One little, and I'm just going to call it a hiccup. That's not that's not balls drop, project explodes, like the work, like not at all, right? So many people will just knee-jerk reaction to like, give them a refund, even if it's a partial refund or whatever, right? When that is not necessarily the best answer for either party. Yeah. Right? Them getting a refund doesn't get them that shot that they missed.
Right. Yep. Right? Exactly.
You giving away the money not only takes revenue out of your pocket for time, effort, sweat equity, all the stuff that went into that project, and you lose integrity when you just kind of lay down and give a refund. Right? So there are definitely times where a refund is like ideal, right? Yeah. I had somebody pay for a consultation call with me. I got it wrong in my book somehow. I shifted the date somehow and I missed the call. You better believe that would be the type of scenario where I would offer a refund. Yeah. That's not what I went to. I offered multiple opportunities to rebook, which what they did. And I gave an extra half an hour, right? So I value added, I value stacked what they were buying, what was the intention versus giving money back for something that, like, in that case, it was an honest mistake and I would have given them a refund if they wanted that. But in the case where, like, there's a misperception or, you know, somebody felt that they should have, you know, gotten a little bit more or something different, like, people are so scared of conflict, especially in the online business world, because they're worried that the first thing somebody's going to do is go rant online.
Yeah.
Right? So they try and wash themselves of the situation as quick as possible. And in most cases, that's giving a refund. When, you know, or the same with like discounting, right? If you think you've overpriced your program, you give a discount. Think about how you can add value to the experience rather than taking away integrity and respect from your business by just giving money back. Right? So I like how you did that, right? Because you could have just crept away and stayed small. But instead you're like, no, I'm here to stay and I'm going to be of value to you. And this is what I want to do. I'm not asking for anything in return. And look at the benefit of that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it's also, go ahead.
No, you.
Me?
Yeah.
Me? We're going to play this game, right? Dance around each other. I was going to say one thing too that I think is really important for people to get comfortable with, especially as they're new in business, is you are not going to be for everybody. And that's okay.
Amen.
Right? So you might have, you know, a consultation experience with somebody that just goes awry. You don't see eye to eye for whatever reason. You're just not a good values fit or whatever it might be. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to take that job. Right? And if you do have a project that maybe falls a little bit apart or ends not on the best note, and it's not something you can salvage and you're not going to be able to see eye to eye with that person, that's okay, right? You're not here to service everybody, right? There's, as they always say, enough fish in the pond, right? But once you can get really clear on who you serve, but as well who you don't serve, you will save yourself a lot of heartache. Like, I have very concrete rules in my own business. Like, if people try and like scope creep, if it's boundary disrespect, right? If it's how they speak to team members, like, I will say goodbye to a client if they compromise my moral compass, right? Because I'm not going to work with somebody I'm not aligned with.
Yeah, that's right? really good. There's a book. It's The Go Giver by Bob Berg and John something. I've had Bob on the show. Really amazing book. It's one of my favorite books. Definitely read that. But then the guy who wrote The 5 Love Languages, which my wife and I read before we got married, and that's been a helpful tool for us almost 20 years.
Are you going to tell us your love language?
It's all of them. Just kidding. Words of affirmation and physical touch. Those are my top 2. So I love giving out hugs, and I love getting cards, or somebody just sending me an encouraging text, or my wife just saying like, babe, you're the best, you know.
You got this.
That stuff just like, I love it. So he also wrote, I think maybe co-wrote another book called The 5 Languages of Apology, I think it's called. And this is like, you were talking about it, and I feel like in this one situation where we filmed this wedding, we didn't get this one shot. The bride was like, I want all my money back. I was like, oh my gosh. Before we got to that spot, you know, she was letting me know she was very upset, and I think immediately somebody is like, "Well, you're going to give her money back," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know if that's what she wants." So understanding what people need is very, very important. So I just make sure that when you're in the wrong and you've done, whether it's with your spouse or a client or whatever, try to like press in and figure out like, how can like, I'm very sorry. And so, you know, there's like saying you're sorry, showing that you're sorry. I forget what the other ones are, but immediately going to try to solve and assume that it's money is wrong. Because the person might just say, that, you know what, I'm super ticked that you didn't get that shot. All I need you to do is say that you're sorry. Like, own the mistake and say that you're sorry. Oh, wow. Okay, that could have saved me $3,000, you know? So really understanding and saying, like, how can I make this right is a much better place to start than just to assume that they want their money back, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And then And I just want to like highlight it, the idea of adding value instead of discounting, I think is very, very spot on. I talk about that whenever somebody comes to us and is like, hey, that proposal, that looks good. It's pretty, it's kind of expensive. So, can you do it for half of that? Or can we take a couple thousand? Sure, we can do that. Like, what do you want to take out? Like out of all the deliverables, what should we take out? Oh, well, none of it. Like we want all this. Well, it's like, okay. And then if it's really a client that you want to work with, you haven't worked with them before or whatever, instead of discounting, again, go back to this idea of adding value. Think through like, hey, we want your business, so we're willing to not just film for a day, but we're going to do a day and a half, or we're going to do 2 days, or we're going to throw in a social media edit, or we're going to like think through what are the things that a client might say like, oh, wow, that's cool. You're still getting the business. You're putting you're not saying we're worth less. We believe that we're worth this, and we really want your business. So we're willing to go the extra mile to make this work and to give you an experience, so that next time it's like no question, you're just like, of course we're going to hire these guys because look what they were able to do for us. Yeah,
and when you discount, like everything you said, yes 1,000 times. And what I think people don't. They're so quick to want the business in many cases. So they will say yes to the discount, or they'll come out there with, hey, this new thing is $1,000, but for you it's 600. Oh, okay. So that thing's really actually only valued at 600, but you're telling people, right? And so they don't understand the psychology behind what type of perception happens when you offer a discount on your product, your service, whatever it might be. You're telling somebody that like, well, I charge this, but I can really get away with selling this, right? And they now go tell their friend next door and, oh, just ask Ryan for a discount.
Yeah.
Because now your pricing has lost integrity.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas instead it's like, no, this is the price. It's already priced fairly.
Yeah.
Right? And being like steadfast in your value, right? And saying, you know what about if we thought about this instead? And even just reframing it in the sense of like, I try very hard not to use the word no. I am a yes if. Yes if. So, well, since we're talking weddings, I go back to my hospitality days in the luxury resort market where I was an event manager, and I did all the high-end weddings for JW Marriott. And so at this particular resort, not like JW Marriott, everything. And so I was dealing with, celebrities, baseball players, hockey players, actresses, like the whole shebang. And we had one couple who very, very affluent, but also frugal at the same time, like would really pick and choose where they would spend their money. But they asserted themselves as if money was no problem, but at the same time also was very like, no, we don't need that. Like, we don't need beef. We'll just go with chicken, right? Even though you probably get what I'm saying. One of their requests was that they wanted an elephant. I kid you not, at their ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, as you do.
So, fair, no problem. Northern Ontario, let's have an elephant, right? Fitting. It was a cultural wedding, so I get that. Not necessarily the most realistic request of our property.
Yep.
And so rather than it would be on them to acquire said elephant, right? So instead of saying no, I came back and said, yes, you can have an elephant partake in your wedding ceremony if, and they got a 6 bullet point list of you pay to have full service cleaning afterwards. You have somebody fully attend with the elephant. You also pay to have our banquet doors widened because they couldn't get into the banquet room.
Right.
And then there was a full carpet clean. There was this list, really, but it wasn't no. But it was a list that was you better really want this elephant if you're gonna say go for it, right? And if they had come back and said yes, we were prepared for all of it. We went into it with that. Yeah. If they say yes, we have to hold true, right? But if you can look at things and saying no, I'm not saying no. Like how you said, somebody wanted to discount your service. Okay, yes. if you can tell me what piece of the service you need to remove to meet that price point.
Right. That's good.
There's no in that conversation. Right. It's yes. I'm happy to assist you with lowering the price if you can let me know what part of the package you'd like to remove.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Boom.
I love that.
Right? So,
oh, yes.
I think getting comfortable with those kinds of conversations, and also just keeping in mind that you're not going to win everyone, right? Yeah. Some people are just like, there are some people out there that just aren't winnable in the sense that they're always going to be tough to do business with. They are always going to come at things from a lacking mindset, if you will, in the sense that they're always going to be looking for something back. Always. Yeah. Like it's just in their nature, which is unfortunate. It's not how I live. I can't really put myself in that position, but there are people out there. And sometimes the best thing we can say as business owners is they're not for us, and that's okay.
That's okay.
All right. And move on and spend your energy on the people who are.
Yeah.
Right. Spend your energy on the ones who are going to shout your company name from the rooftop when they have the opportunity versus chasing the people who, they might do one more piece of business with you, but they're never going to be your raving loyal fan, and they're not going to help you build the legacy you're setting out to create.
Yep. That's so good. Yeah. I love that. Katrina, this has been so good. Man, yes, I told you I was going to take a lot of notes, and I did take a lot of notes.
I did do some typing. I saw some typing.
Yes.
Nice. Good.
So good getting this time with you. Tell us
Likewise.
Where people can find out more information about you. I think you even have a download you can share with us that might be helpful.
Yeah. So scarlettandco.ca is the website. I'm going to actually go against what you said, Ryan. I am not very much on social media. I just don't love social media. And you know what? One day we might just invest a little bit more there company-wide, but we are all about organic networking and reach. So you know what? We just kind of stay in that lane.
Go for it.
So the website's the best. You can always send me an email at katrina@scarlettandco.ca. And then, yes, we have an opt-in for if you'd like to get a download. It's actually kind of a bit of more of a workbook. We definitely deliver the value in it for 5 customer-centric emails that every business should have. And basically, it's like your out-of-office responder. It's, following up with a difficult conversation. Basically, just kind of like the ones that you need in your arsenal. And before the swipe copy of each email, it's kind of like the Mad Lib style, right?
Yeah.
I walk you through the purpose, the intention, things to consider, like when to use this, when not to use this, right? But really making sure that you're, communicating proactively with your people and setting up the relationship for success by having the right messaging. So that is available, scarlettandco.ca /5 customer-centric emails, I believe, but we'll put it with show notes.
That's right. We will link it in the show notes so you don't have to remember anything.
like I knew I should have pulled that up and probably made a shorter link.
That is okay.
But yeah, that's the best way to find me. There's some social media out there, but not very much. So that's not where we put people's attention to for us.
That's good. I like it. Katrina, this has been so good. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
I love the experience that you've had that's brought you to where you're at today, where you're able to, working at high-end luxury hotel, working with lots of crazy people, lots of crazy situations. My background is in that area as well. And you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about people, and to be able to help people who haven't had that same experience, I think is amazing. So really appreciate your skill set and your talent in giving that to us today. Very, very helpful. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I will come back whenever you would like me.
Love it. Yeah, maybe I won't wait like 6 years or whatever when we first start
ideally,
chatting.
Like at least just 2. Wait 2.
Awesome. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I want to know, what is the worst customer service thing that you've ever done? Just kidding. I would love to know your big takeaways from this episode. Is there something that you have done that has worked super well? I would love for you to share that in the Facebook group, share that in the comments here underneath this video. What is it that you've done well? Or maybe like what would you suggest people avoid? You can get show notes, the links and all things from this episode if you go to studiosherpas.com/309. And man, I am so thankful that you've made it this far into this show. Grateful for you. Thanks for your encouragement to me as I love doing this show. And if it means something to you and you haven't told me that, just let me know. Quick, short little message. You can email me, Ryan@studiosherpas.com. I'm on the socials at Grow Your Video Business as well, and at Ryan Coral. So I am thankful for you. And one last reminder here about the mastermind, studiosherpas.com/mastermind, and I would love to see your application if you're considering it. So let me know if you need anything else. Reach out, and I'll talk to you really soon, my friend. Until then, onward and upward.